Today we're going to do a run through of the new collectible functionality demo that we've been showing for our Alpha V2. NFT collectibles are a way of creating non-fungible tokens, that is unique tokens on the blockchain that represent things. Some people use it to represent property, supply chain. A big popular use case, of course, is in-game items, game assets, or art. So what we see here is a preview of the example that I'm going to give you a walkthrough. And basically what we can use the dApp Hero collectible feature for is we can build really engaging, dynamic websites that connect to the blockchain and to the on-chain NFT collectibles using only HTML. And this really opens up the ability for us to build things using tools like Glitch, Webflow, Squarespace, these types of things. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to just walk you through the demo example that we have created here in Glitch, do a separate video for our Webflow version, just to give you an idea of how it looks. So you can get this glitch here. It's a dApp Hero NFT example. You can always refer to our documentation at docs.dapphero.io. As a note, this is a coming new feature, so you'll have to use the latest script tag, which is if you go to the changelog, you'll see it's in the nightly builds. So you'll just replace your main.js script tag with a nightly build script tag, and I'll show you exactly where that's done. And so let's get into it. So if we're here at the site, right? So it's a preview of this functionality. Let's actually open up the app. Let's see the app fully. Glitch is a tool that allows us to build websites really quickly. The Glitch hosts them themselves. We can write in HTML. We can use React. You can really do anything there. In this case, we're just using plain HTML with dApp Hero. So this is what the app looks like. It's basically kind of looks like a storefront or a front for an NFT collectible contract. And what we have here, we have all these tokens that show up. And then we have these buttons here that allow you to page through these tokens. And they do take a second to load up, but here they are. So you can page through them. The other feature and functionality that we built into this is we have the ability to click on one image, which then takes us to a single NFT page, which then loads that single NFT that we clicked on and it shows some information about it, right? So let's get into how this actually works. Let's jump into the code. So if you go into the Glitch editor for the project, you can remix it to create your own, and there would be a little button that says remix to edit. That way you can start using your own example and you can use your own NFT contract addresses, collectible contract addresses. So let's check out HTML first. This is our HTML. Now this short HTML, right? This is only 82 lines. This is the entire website, right? So what we're able to build here is really very exciting with a really small amount of HTML. And actually much of this is just the standard HTML stuff. The sort of magic of dApp Hero creating our collectible contract here is actually very small. So let me walk you through that. So if you have a little bit of background in dApp Hero, you know that to use the more complicated features like smart contracts and collectibles, you need to create a method instance. And basically the method instance is a div or some tag that contains the properties that set up the feature that we're connecting to. In this case, we are creating a div here at the top. And we're actually wrapping everything in that div. You don't need to wrap everything in that div for the method instance. Sometimes I like to organize them at the bottom of my HTML page, so I keep all my method instances together and they're easy to find. But in this case, we have them here just in the middle of the page, right? So the data DH feature equals NFT. We have a data DH property tag ID. In this case, it's 000. Like custom contract, it's important that this tag ID is just unique for this particular method feature that you're trying to use. So everything else, for example, those buttons that we saw will have a tag ID of 000 as well. And that tells dApp Hero Core, the engine, that these things are linked. Then we're going to set up the asset contract address. In this case, this is the address of this contract. I think this is one of the popular NFT art sites collections. And then we set up a pagination limit and pagination offset. So what this is pagination limit actually sets how many tokens we want to retrieve, how many collectibles we want to retrieve. In this case, we're retrieving 30. And the pagination offset is actually where in the list of tokens we want to get started from. And in this case, we're starting from item 30. So to explain a little bit better, let's say a contract has 1,000 tokens, collectibles. If you had a pagination limit of 10 and an offset of 0, you would display tokens number 0 through 10, right? So you'd see the first 10. If you had a pagination offset of 500 and a pagination limit of 10, you would see tokens 500 to 510, right? So basically the offset is where do you want to start in the list of total tokens, and the pagination limit is how many tokens you want to retrieve. So let's now that we have that, right? That's the method instance. So that's what's creating this. That's what's setting up this functionality in total, right? So now what we're going to do is we actually just have to create a container, right? Because what's happening here is we are actually creating a container for each one of these objects, right? These collectibles, right? The observing shroom in this image, they actually exist in a container. And what the DAP Hero engine does is we define our container, and then the engine actually duplicates that container, right? So if there's 10 collectibles that you'd like to use, it'll actually duplicate that container 10 times. So we define that by creating another div, right? And this is the container, and we give the tag ID of 000 along with the method instance, right? So now the DAP Hero Core engine knows that this is the functionality inside of this container is linked to this method instance. We give it a property asset item equals true, right? So now we're saying, hey, this container, this is our asset, right? This is the thing that we represents the collectible. And the reason why we put true here, that's not actually necessary, but for a number of different, for tools such as Webflow, they don't allow you to leave empty attribute types. So we just put true in there to be standard. Class is just a class that I have set up here in the style, right? So container, right? And that's oh, maybe I have asset. Which one is this one? This is asset, right? So that's so I can set up the styling for this asset. Similarly, above, I have class container on the method instance, and that's because I'm using this div also to wrap the whole thing. And that's where I set up the styling. In this case, you see I'm doing flexbox, right? So, and that gives us the nice tokens all lined up in a row. So the magic, right? So inside this container, we have an anchor link, an image, and an H3 tag, right? So let's look at these. Let's actually start with the simplest one, the H3 tag. So data DH property asset JSON path equals name. Every NFT collectible returns a JSON object of metadata that represents what this token is supposed to be. And the data DH property asset JSON path allows you to actually access any property on that list, and it allows you to dot into the property, right? So if you had just name on the collectible, most collectibles have a name, you would just put name because that's a top level property. But if, for example, it was a name and then that had a sub object, which was maybe like first name, last name, you would have name dot first name, right? So you would, let's see. I have to remix actually to edit it. I was wondering why I couldn't type in. So let's go in. We're going to make a copy here ourselves. Loading the project, right? So you would have name dot first name, right? Or name dot last name, right? And that would allow you to dot into the JSON object that represents the metadata of your particular token. Similarly, for the image, right, we want to display an image, right? We have this image here. So to display that image, we create an image tag. We give it a data DH property asset JSON path equals image URL, right? So what this is a special use case, right? Because a lot of tokens have images. So for image HTML elements, if we give it the asset JSON path image URL, the DAP Hero engine will then assign the image URL's tag to the image URL of the NFT collectible, right? So that should be on your JSON object a URL for where to get the image from. And as a note on the format for this is all based on the OpenSea API metadata JSON object format. So you will be able to learn more about how that works if you go to OpenSea.io. and then we load up. If you go to their develop, and they go develop with us, or actually I think it's probably the docs. In their API, they describe the type of object that you get back, and you get back things like image URL, name, owner, traits. These are the top level fields for most objects that you can use easily in your project using the asset JSON path. Right? There may be more, and again, you can access those as well, and you can dot into them. Now, for the really cool part, right? So if we just had that, that's enough to display our list of tokens, right? That's all we need there to get started and have that displaying. Actually, let's show a new one because we created a new project here when we remixed it. So let's let that load up really quickly. And what we'll do is we will sort of edit it a little bit, right? So if you notice, this image is responsible for, wow, I have a really big cursor. I got a big cursor to sort of like help people see, but maybe I realize it's a little bit too big. All right, so if we do that, we notice we see a list of names for the tokens, right? And then if we just replace the image tag, we see that we will get all the images of our tokens as well, right? So that's cool. That works. That's pretty amazing to be able to get you know, a list of these tokens dynamically from the blockchain using just HTML tags. But now, if you're looking to build really dynamic, interesting sites, like for example, you want to show a list of your own artwork here, and then you would like to be able to click on an individual one, right? In this case, you click on the stepping out here, and then it shows the individual token. So that's a new website, right? That's a new page, web page, right? That's single NFT HTML, as you can see here. All right, so that's a different page. And then inside, if we go into the page, right, we see kind of similar HTML. Now, as a note, we didn't mention this, you need the script tag in both index HTML and single NFT HTML, right? This is the part that does the magic. This is what loads the dApp Hero engine in your browser. Right? But here you see a same thing in single NFT. You see the method instance, which sets up the feature that you're trying to do. And again, NFT, we gave it a tag ID of 001. It could have been 000 because this technically is a new website, so there would not be a collision with index HTML. But we did something really different here. So check this out. For property asset token ID, we use $URL. And for property asset contract address, we also use $URL, right? That's different because if we look at, here we created a container, right? And that's pretty simple, right? And then here we had JSON path image URL and JSON path name. That's the same as before, right? Of course, here's a great example of dotting into the JSON metadata where we have owner.address, right? And the owner.address results in owner.address, right? So this address owns this token, right? But let's check out this image, this URL, right? The comments here sort of give you a clue to it, but basically, while in the index HTML version right here, we actually labeled the asset contract address, for example, right? What we are doing instead, look at this anchor tag, right? When we link to the single NFT.html as in the container, right? So this is each asset has its own anchor link. We are dynamically assigning new information to this link tag, right? So asset token ID equals $this token ID. What that means is this link will always refer asset token ID to this particular token that we're already on, right? And that's important because what this is URL, this is a query string, right? So this is passing some data to whatever page it links to, in this case, single NFT. It's passing data to that page in the URL bar. And what it's passing is the token ID that we want to display and the contract address from which we want to display, right? So we have the same contract address here. So each time we click this link, and if we go and check out a single token, if we hover over it, you'll see down here in this lower screen, oh, it sort of disappears. But if you see down at the bottom of the window, let's see, I'm not sure if it shows up here. Maybe it doesn't show up here. Well, okay, so if I click on it, you'll see in the URL bar, you see the token ID gets dynamically filled in. So it's 1,000 or 10,158, and the contract address gets filled in, right? So this information actually ends up getting shared passed to the new page, single NFT, via the URL bar, right? So DApp Hero is running in this page as well. And when we say $URL, a contract address, that means that we actually get this information directly from the URL bar. So we don't have to put that data in ourselves manually. And what that means is that this page will be dynamic. This page will always show whatever we sort of pass in the data for it from it. And that's really great because that allows us to create this dynamic page, right? So now we can show we can just create the template for what our page is going to look like. We add DApp Hero into it, and then we get this full functionality of being able to connect to any smart contract, right? So to give you another example, let's actually find another collectible project to show what that maybe looks like. So here, we'll go to the Ethereum, right? It's a multiplayer dungeon. Very cool game, very awesome. So let's see how many items are in this collection. So here in the Ethereum, we can click on one of these, and now we see this part of the link up here. That's actually the contract address, right? So this is the contract address, and this is the token ID. So this is token 1 on this contract address. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go up here, we're going to grab this, and I'm going to just pop the contract address in right here and right here. So now our page should reload, and what we're going to get is we're going to actually get to see the Eternal links show up. Although actually they're not showing up right now. Maybe I've done something wrong. Oh, so this is a great example. Okay, so no NFTs have shown up, no collectibles have shown up. The reason is if we go back to OpenSea for a second, we'll see that there are 20 items in the collection, right? If we look back at our setup here in the method instance, we have pagination limit of 30, means we want to get at least 30 collectibles, and pagination offset of 30, meaning we want to start displaying them from item 30. Well, in this case, there aren't actually 30 tokens, right? And there certainly aren't more than 30 tokens. There's only 20. So we would actually put in pagination offset of 0 because we're not going to see any tokens over 30. So if we put in pagination of 0, then we get all the 20 tokens show up. And in this case, they are all of this very cool GIF. And if we click on it, you see it, right? So let's do another one really quickly. Now that you see how easy that is to do, let's go back to OpenSea. Let's maybe check out another project that's sort of hanging out to find something cool. Pixel chain, right? That looks pretty fun, pretty cool, right? So Pickle Chain, there's 2,000 items in this collection. Great, so that's plenty. So let's click one of those. We're just going to copy that contract address there. So let us paste that in. I've pasted it in both places, as you noticed. And then now we can give ourselves like, a nice offset. Let's just start somewhere in the middle, right? 50. Well, actually, I guess 50 isn't really the middle, but that's the same thing. So we go back to our page. Maybe let's refresh it if it hasn't loaded yet. And now we'll see the Pixel Chain collection, right? And what's cool is because this is dynamic, right? Even though we haven't done anything, we can just click on one, and now we can be inspecting this single token. So this really gives you an enormous amount of power to create dynamic templates that could look like anything, right? Like my design skills are fairly limited in this case, so it just created something like this. But what it allows you to do is you can build templates that you're for yourself or for other people that really allow you to build really cool dynamic sites with regards to collectibles. So let's show one more feature, this previous and next. right? So let's check this out for a second. This sort of picture of this guy on the stairs is the first collectible that we see here. If we click the previous button, what happens is that we'll actually go out and fetch one more token, right? So Vanilladelphia. So that's another token. We can click again, and then we'll get another token come up. So what these allow you to do is this actually allows you to page through the results. So this allows you to move forward or backward in the number of tokens that you're displaying, right? And that can be very useful. So that allows your users to sort of sort through this large collection of tokens. And we can do one more thing. Let's reduce this, right, to show off just 2 tokens at a time, right? So you can imagine kind of like a magazine format of like 1 token and another token, and then you can sort of like page through them really nicely to see more tokens and go through. Right, so that basically wraps it up for our walkthrough of the glitch code here. It's really very simple. All we're doing, remember, is we add our script tag down here, and remember to use the nightly build so that you have the latest features. We are creating a method instance, and then we are creating a container, and then we're just designing our token the way we want to display it. Right? The entire functionality, entire core functionality of doing this is maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tags. 9 tags gives you this experience. So we believe this is going to be really powerful. We have some exciting new features that will be coming soon. So keep building with us. Reach out to our Telegram group or our forum to get more information. And we're excited to see what you build.